Hello guys, I'm here with Roberto Pisani, aka Hazurov, who made it to top 16 at Italian National 2025, a tournament with over 1400 players, which is absolutely amazing, with a very specific deck, Tearlaments, not Memento, or Ryzeal, or Mitsurugi, or Malice with Tearlaments, but an incredible accomplishment. And just to put it into perspective, keep in mind there are North American YCS tournaments with 1,300 up to 1,800 players, and a national with roughly 1,400 players is probably equal to a North American YCS. So almost comparable to a YCS top 16, and here it's a national top 16 with Tearlaments. How do you feel about it?
I still have to process everything. I still don't believe it. And it was an amazing run. I was also very surprised to go up on Fissure, and I'd say it was the perfect ending to an awesome run. And yeah, I'm still extremely happy. And also, I really love the fact that a lot of people reach out to me afterwards because they were inspired to bring a deck they love instead of what's good at the moment. I found someone who was playing Malice at the event and dropped from the event because he didn't perform, and he found out that it didn't really resonate with the deck. And seeing me performing with a deck that I love inspired him to just don't do it again in the future, but bring something he's comfortable with and loves.
Okay, that basically answers my first question, which was why did you decide to play Tearlaments and not anything else?
Yeah, yeah, that's basically it. Historically, I never enjoy playing basically what's meta, just because what I believe is, let's say I bring Malice to an event like this. I'm playing a deck that eventually is going to get hit. So I always feel like I'm sort of abusing it. But if I play something that I'm sure in like 2 months is not gonna get touched, I feel like the run has more value because I first grow as a player and I bring the deck to its absolute stretch and limits, and that's what I feel is the most rewarding. Also, another reason is because it's a deck people aren't prepared for, and what I can tell you, and I assure you, I told this to every opponent. The moment I sat down and they saw a 60 card pile, they all let out a sigh because they were all shitting their pants for a 60 card deck, and rightfully so because yeah, it was amazing.
I have similar experience, especially when you play a rogue deck. Some people don't know what every single card in your deck does. They have to understand specific interactions. For example, the interaction with Tierkash and Rhinoheart, and very often people are going to misplay when you play such a rogue deck. But in general, it feels really rewarding when you make a rogue deck like Tearlaments successful with it, because when I played it at locals in previous formats, like for example Kashtira, people didn't believe in it. They said it's too high roll, it's too inconsistent. And then I did quite well at nationals despite misplaying a lot. And then when Kashtira got hit, the deck was suddenly a tier 1 deck again. It was just a Riceheart and maybe Magnamod at 3 that gatekept it. And yeah, if you can have a format without those two problems, then the deck is suddenly a major threat. And something similar
Mhm.
happened to me in Nationals format last year with Snake Eye, because I saw Tearlaments making a top 4 in the Spanish National, top 4 in the Irish National, and that encouraged me to play it myself at the German National over something like Tenpai, which I used to top an OTS championship. And I think I also was probably more successful with Tenpai at locals than I was with Tier, but I still decided Tenpai is a little bit boring, and I don't want to play mind games with my opponent when deciding who goes first post siding. So I fell back on a really comfortable deck that was supposed to have a great Tenpai matchup, especially if I window lock my opponents. But then I never played against a single Tenpai throughout my entire nationals. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Speaking about misplays, I had a player and he resolved Dogmatica Maximus against me, And at this point, I think most opponents were pretty much expecting that they are playing against a deck that doesn't get any value from Dogmatica Maximus. She knew that I was not playing Granite, but just resolving the Maximus after I got hand ripped 3 times and had absolutely nothing. That brought me back into the game, and now I was suddenly in a winning position again because of the Dogmatic Maximus from my opponent. Yeah, and that was in general really cool. And I also was able to steal a couple of games against Snake Eye. So this deck is not just pure high rule. It can definitely win if you are pushing it to the limits, which you did. And I kind of misplayed last nationals, so I made it to only 140 from 2,500 players. Could have been top 128, maybe top 64 if one of my losses was a win instead. But I just had to play better. It is what it is. Anyways, now I want to play this deck at Nationals this year, so I have to ask a lot of questions about the deck and your specific card choices. Also, this video took lots of effort to produce, so if you want to see more Tearlaments content like this, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel, that helps me a lot. Let's start with the first choice, and that is the huge Cash engine. So in the past deck lists, I saw people playing Malicious, for example, in the Kenner regional. Just let me load up the deck list really quick.
Okay, yes, this one.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, this one where Lara made top 8 at the Kenner WCQ regional with triple Malicious, and you decided to play no Malicious at all, instead a really big cash package. I saw Lara play 2 Fenrir and 2 Unicorn, and you decided to play 3 Fenrir, 3 Unicorn, and 0 Malicious at all. What was your reasoning behind it?
Okay, go back to the list from Lara.
Yeah.
Because that was my blueprint. Basically, when I started playing the deck, I started from this version, from the version from Lara, and I loved it. Compared to her list, however, I didn't put the Garura, but instead I had Goddess. I had Baby Goddess and Goddess, and that was the most value I could bring out from Malicious, because it helps you to basically link climb into Baby Goddess, use her effect, use the effect of to link using 2 monsters from your opponent, and basically you turn Malicious into a board breaker that goes into Finsmith. However, Malicious also has a lot of downsides, mainly Full loss, because it basically added the card under Full loss, and also because for 2 other reasons. My list doesn't play Pilgrim, so there's no reason to use Malicious as a random body, since you all already generate a ton of them. It's what this deck does. And the second reason, Malicious was very good because it was a dark, and dark was a very important attribute when we had the Bahamut to go into Toad. But when we lost Toad, we needed a replacement. We needed a replacement to beat Nib, and that was the third engraver for me, which not only when are drawn is a great board breaker, basically, but also whenever you open engraver, you have the option to go for a line that goes for both Desiree and Caesar. And that's the same whenever you mill with Zombie Vampire, an engraver, a Lacrima, yeah, either one of these 2. So that makes your end board basically unoutable. It's insane because you have already the Horus in rotation. You're gonna have Masquerena and hopefully some Kashtiras on board. And what you need to realize, however, as I said in the profile, is that this isn't main Tearlament deck. What holds this deck together is Finsmith, because it's the only constant you get to throughout your matches. It helps you when going second, it helps you going first, and that's why I also go to run 3 unicorns, because it's the easiest way you have to get to Finsmith, because it's essentially one body for free to go into Finsmith, and it also covers you under Charmies and Entrap. You basically challenge them. Either you burn their resources, but most importantly, you get information. And so you decide as soon as they toss one hand trap at you, what to go for. And also going second, a play I like to do comes up whenever you open Farrier, because it's another board breaker that's insane. So what you do going second, if you have like Farrier and Droplet, you search with Farrier, and oftentimes Farrier alone puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. So in like a matchup like Blue Eyes, which I didn't find in the tournament, I only basically meta. But against those matchups, Farrier is often gonna get popped. It's gonna get answered immediately because they want to deny both the search and the effect to banish. And so what you can do is you, with the access to Unicorn at 3 of, you can reborn the Farrier immediately. And also, generally, having access to Birth makes it so whenever you mill with Zombie Vampire, you're guaranteed to bring back a Farrier with Birth, not having to use the effect from Zombie Vampire. So I found it very efficient overall.
Okay, that sounds actually pretty good. Yeah, I underestimated the effect to scout for information with the unicorn. Yeah, most people like me always assume it's just for the extra deck grip if the opponent decides to hand rip you, but knowing which matchup you are playing against it and making a custom endboard against it can be really valuable too. Yeah, didn't think about that. Okay, now let's go to the next question.
Also, we have to not underestimate Birth, which is alone puts an insane amount of pressure against matchups like Memento, even Mitsurugi, because they often go for the I don't remember. I think it's the Saji, the one that gets back the ritual from grave, and oftentimes you're gonna since they're going first, Birth resolves first because it's chilling too, and banishes the ritual and other two reptiles from grave. So it's insane for even burning down the resources. But also, uh, basically, the moment Birth or Kingsark hits the field, you're challenging your opponent to kill you on the spot, or else your follow up is going to murder them. So Birth alone always it's a form of removal from the opponent. So like after they try to break your board, they go into SP to try to either focus down the Birth or the Kingsark, and that already puts a lot of value because you have a lot of follow up for the next turn.
Yeah, that sounds pretty strong. I can only imagine resolving Birth against the Mitsurugi, Ritual, and the Ritual monsters. For example, the Futsu, a one-off. They can add back with one of the Mitsurugis from the banishment, but only if it's face up, and if the monsters are banished face down, they can no longer add back their stuff. Yeah, I can see the value behind Birth, and Birth combined with Kingsark in a grind game. Yeah, I can see that. And now my next question would be why you decided to play no left arm offering at all. Because let me show you the lists from other regionals. Okay, not this one. This is the DV grinder list, but he went for triple
Mhm.
left arm offering. And then we have something from the Toronto regional, which looks pretty similar with three left arm offering and two Blackout Loves, but I just replaced one Blackout Loves with Diabolical Vegans. And both you and Laura decided to not play Left Arm Offering at all, and I would like to hear your reasoning behind it.
I've tried it. I've tried the left arm, and the issue is the idea behind left arm is that it's like another copy of trust, because what you want to do is you want to ensure that going second you access grass, which is your strongest card and board breaker. The issue with that is that whenever you go first, it's a really bad card, at least for the way I intended the deck to play. What I often did, even when I got full lost, like turn skip with like cards, like they tossed some good interaction at me. That card doesn't help you. If anything, it boycotts your game plan because at least, let's say you get interrupted and or you don't want to commit too much into Fualos, what you can simply do is set up some basic interactions like under Fua. I will always make at least either Mascarena or set up a Requiem to send Paradise. Have like either Unicorn, Farrier, or the other best engine under Fua, which is the Kaleido on field, basically, which you make very efficiently, giving up just one draw. And then you can set either a Super Poly, you can set a Droplet, you can even have a Black Coat in the grave. That's often enough to survive to the next turn, and then they're cooked, basically. That's not something you can do with left arm, because you're basically banking it all on the on grass, which is also very predictable. Like if I have to go back and think all the times that I went against Malice, if I had left arm instead of Trust, I would have lost, because Malice eats up so many interactions, and the fact that you, in order to use left arm, you have to have 3 cards in hand, I believe. It's insane. Oftentimes, left arm trust into grass is the last thing you do that wins you the game, and you simply cannot force enough interactions with what, 2 cards? It's impossible. Like, Malice is just gonna piss on you, and you're not gonna win going second. I know that grass is your strongest card, but having your entire game plan revolve around it simply doesn't work. That's why I decided to go with more board breakers instead.
Yeah, I guess the reasoning for going first makes perfectly sense because most people just think, okay, with 3 trust and 3 left arm and 1 grass, I have a 54% chance to resolve this card going second. But from my experience, I have pretty bad experience with left arm offering 2. You need 2 cards in hand and then you need the left offering itself. So yeah, kind of 3 cards. And most of the times you just need more than 3 cards to push enough into the opponent's board to a point where you already baited some interruptions on the board and potentially an Ash Blossom in the hand, so that left arm
Yeah,
into graphics can resolve.
very predictable too. Like, and can you go back to that list that you just showed me?
Yeah,
The one with left arm.
yeah, the Toronto list.
Okay, so it was on only 2 droplets.
Yeah, and I think the DB Grinder list played 0 droplets. Yeah, 0 droplets, only droplet in the side deck.
Okay, and I strongly disagree with that, because like Droplet is such a custom card in this deck. It's almost a must of. I only ever side it out when I go first, where I put whatever entrap stops my opponent. So like a Droll or the Lancea. I think droplets and trust, when it's activated, is just so free, and it helps you against Malice especially.
Yeah, another interaction where Droplet is also helpful is when you are playing against Prime and Blue Eyes because they set up the Drill Beam and then they think, oh cool, I have an Omni Negate, I can just negate the grass from my opponent. No, Droplet sent the grass, then Drill Beam can no longer negate and banish it and your grass resolves. At least this is how it works in Master Duel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
But as you said before, you didn't play against Blue Eyes, so this play probably didn't come up. Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
that answers.
Yeah, Blue Eyes is honestly one of the best matchups you have, because it has such a low ceiling that you just overcome it pretty easily with interactions. The only thing that is tough to go over is Majesty, which does a good thing against you, because um, removal is very strong against this deck, but specifically non-targeting removal. Murakumo is not that good instead, because you can force it early, but it's really hard to force a trap like Majesty. But yeah, that's the only interaction Blue Eyes has against you. For the rest, you just you steamroll them. And the scary thing about Blue Eyes in testing is that they have an amazing grind that often beats this Tearlament grind. So if you go in a grind game against Blue Eyes, they could have the upper hand. So you have to try to grind them fast. That's it. So and Fansmith comes into play in those sort of things because it puts a lot of pressure every turn, negating and also threatening lethal with Day.
Yeah, I guess Agnamde might be really the guru when you want to kill pretty early and do not want to go into a grind game against Blue Eyes. I can see that, especially when a deck like Blue Eyes has buddies with over 4k, then you need something to reliably outdose buddies. Yeah, that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, and then you also played 3 Kings Saga, and other lists played only 1 or 2. Just let me check how many copies the Lara list played. Okay, also 3 copies. But did you like those 3, or would you maybe cut the King Saga down to maybe 2 or 1?
No, you kind of always like to see King's Arc for sending a Rainbow Breach whenever you draw it in hand, and also because like there's no downside for going into Horus. There's literally no downside. They don't lose to Fualos. If they want to Fua, they have to toss it early, and so you can just keep them on the field and their interaction by themselves. And um, I don't know, it just opens up so many possibilities. Like zombie vampire summoning anything from the grave, it's so busted and free. It makes going into, and it also baits imperm, it baits a lot of end trap early, and so you're free to go into anything else later more freely. Also, like what I told you earlier, whenever you have King's Arc on the field, you're challenging your opponent to stop you there in that game and not KO you, or else you're gonna murder him in the follow-up. And also, like whenever you find yourself in some weird board states where you have something that threatens you, Horus and access to the Horus engine just forces those interactions early. And especially in a meta where we have Mitsurugi, kings are protecting your Horus just puts so much pressure. Like, let's say they have prayers ready to reborn the Murakumo. What you can do if you want is you can set up your Horus and then start playing. If they want to commit to the Raijeki from Murakumo, they're gonna trigger both your Horuses. They're two very strong interactions, I'd say.
Yeah, what I also learned recently is that Harpy can shuffle back cards back into the deck of the owner. So this could be
Yeah.
kind of a transmigration prophecy. And especially in a deck like tier with Pearl Rhino, you could maybe shuffle back one of your own tier cards and then get the Pearl Rhino pop from the Harpy shuffle. Did this play ever come up for you?
It came up against Memento round 1. So he used Fuwa. I had Unicorn and the Horuses, I think. Let me check. But basically, he went Darkblade and tried to pop the burst. I triggered both the Imseti and Api. Api added back burst, so it was basically useless, the effect of Darkblade. And I think I added back a trust or talent, and he conceded on the spot, basically.
But the other issue with Zark is, like someone from my locals told me, yeah, you have to consider playing into Detonator. And yeah, if you activate King Zark, the opponent could just instant pop up with Detonator. So how do you use this card into the Rizal matchup? I imagine that to be really difficult.
Yeah, it is. In fact, like, in that specific matchup, I only play with 2 Kings Arc, and side out 1. Yeah, you're 100% right. But Even against Malice, of course, you have to side out one, so you only play with two. You still keep two because you force those early interactions. Like against Malice, what players often do is they don't shotgun their interaction to remove the King's Arc, but they wait for you to pay the cost. What that means is that you can still get away with sending like a Rainbow Bridge or Black Coat for cost, and that often goes in your favor. And the detonator plus Mitsurugi is really tough to out. During the event, I think I found like four of them, and it went fine. I'd say it's not easy because Super Poly is not good in that matchup, so I side it out as well. Yeah, what you often do is rely on Black Coat in that matchup because as soon as long as you can out the detonator, so like with a droplet or as I said a Black Coat, you're fine. That's the only issue you have. Otherwise, you have to try to force it early, where like with even a Rhino art. Rhino art making Kaleido is a good attempt at forcing a detonator, because even if they pop Kaleido, it's gonna come back. So they really have to commit a lot of pops with just one card, basically, from
Yeah, I
Reinhardt. If you
remember
have
this guy from my local saying Tier is not well positioned in the current meta because all of their powerful cards, and that would be Perla Rhino, Scream, and Salik, they play pretty hard into Detonator, and for that reason, it's not the greatest deck into the current meta. But do you feel like this, or is Detonator just overrated against Tier?
no, 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 no. Is perfectly right. Detonator is very strong still into this deck. He was talking about Scream, and almost every time, unless I don't really fear the matchup, I will side out both Screams
Both
because
Screams.
because it doesn't have much value in this deck, specifically because you don't have consistent ways of milling good cards. So the only reason Scream is in the deck is if you open it or to access a trap. So it's like an onboard piece. But going second, you're free to cut it. Like imagine if you go second against Raizu, you'd rather see a Droll, a Purulia, or even Fua rather than Scream.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I also think Scream became a lot weaker when you had to go up to 60 in deck size, because Scream was a lot more powerful when you had a more condensed 40 card deck, because then the chance of hitting your tier names during the opponent's turn with random free is much, much higher. And
Mhm.
yeah, when you combine that with the drop that Scream puts on the opponent, it's really hard for the opponent to kill when everything is minus 500. But here, I guess
Mhm.
this doesn't come up that often anymore. My next question, and that would be why you decided to play two Scream and not one when you say Scream is not that good.
Two Screams instead of one. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a good card, so getting to one, I'm a bit iffy on. Um, Now, opening Scream is fine because oftentimes it helps you chain locking a Rhino art, for example, or if you really don't have a good hand, milling those three cards is still valuable. And yeah, that's still I'll say it's still a crazy good card. You just don't want to open multiple since it's so easy to it's easy to access a trap with sending stream with Kaleido, so you don't really need the third one.
Yeah, I get it. That makes kind of sense. And you played another interesting card, and that is the set rotation. I played set rotation
Yeah.
too when everyone on my locals was on Runic, and this card just gets rid of Runic Fountain. But then there
Yeah.
are some other matchups where set rotation might not be that good, especially when the opponent plays Kashtira cards in their own deck to add with Razorf. Kinda a bit iffy, but I guess in the current meta not that many people are on Kashtira monsters for Razorf. There might be some Gristrons that could add Immunity if you give them the walls. So my question would be, yeah, first of all, which field spell do you give them when you have set rotation?
Okay, so the good thing about set rotation is that in a meta where everyone is running role, it guarantees access to one of your engines. So it depends on your hand, but most of the times, set rotation is going to set the Horus field spell on my opponent field, and it's going to set Raid Sot to access Unicorn. That is really good into draw, because if you play Terraforming instead, you're just gonna get trolled and you're not gonna add anything. Another good thing I talked about in the profile is that this card, not during the event, but during testing, stole me so many games because my opponent afterwards tried to toss Mulcharmy and they couldn't because they had a card on the field.
Oh, that sounds
So
really dirty. Yeah, I can imagine that some opponents might completely forgot it when they see the hand and then, oh shit, I forgot to chain my Mulchami and now I can no longer drop the Mulchami because I missed the activation window on the rotation. Yeah, especially when this card is not popular at all. Okay, also
yeah,
something like
exactly.
Race of seems pretty interesting. I expected this card mainly to go for Pearl Rhino, but you probably have Rainbow Bridge to get into Paladino later in the combo. Yeah, I might try this combination out for myself.
So there are some ends where you don't want to lose to draw, and so sadly you decide to use set rotation and give up the activation of Perlarino, because often enough you're not able to shuffle back the field spell on your opponent's field in order to activate another field spell that you may have in hand or have added with Rainbow Bridge. But I think that's worth it, since you're not losing to draw, basically. You still had something to add with it. And yeah, I'd say it's very important to add Unicorn to, as I said earlier, to get info, but also because it's very efficient to go into things. Like you go into the Tearlaments engine with Perla Rhino only, I'd say, if you have a way to go into Rhino art. So for example, sorry, not into Kaleido art. So if you ever discard the Rainbow Bridge, I'd say one of your you decide if you want to get the cash fill spell if you already have like a Reinhardt in hand, because that means you can go for both the Kashtiras, the Kaleido, and you can go into Finsmith, and that makes your end board super layered. Or else, if you don't have access to Reinhardt, I'd say it's worth it to give up going into the Kashtiras and make your end boards basically Finsmith plus Rhino, Kaleido, and the traps basically. And that's also super layered. Memento comes to mind, or Ryziel. You can keep set rotation because that way you can use it like a starter and a small board breaker, because you can chain it to the effect of the field spare from a Memento that wants to bring back a body, or the Ryziel Cross.
Okay, fair. Yeah, and then, yeah, you played Super Poly. You already answered why Super Poly is probably better than stuff like Left Arm Offering. And then I think the final extraordinary card in the Manic would be the Meta Noise. So why did you decide to play Meta Noise?
So that came up originally because I took inspiration from Lara's list. which was I love this list. And yeah, the reason behind it, it's so your grass has a lot more value because instead of playing 3 Salyak, you play 2 Salyak and 1 Meta Noise, which gives you flexibility in your endboard because you can add either one of the traps depending on the matchup. Like against Malice, I'd say Meta Noise, if you're going first, is a lot better because it basically denies a body and they have to commit another one. And also because it adds back a tier name whenever it's sent to grave, so it gives you a lot of value whenever you activate grass. I'm sad about one thing. As you see in Lara's list, I really loved Grief as a card, but talking with a friend from our team, um, since now the list leans way more into Finsmith, um, I never found myself in situations where grief would have saved me. Uh, but like grief could come up in some niche cases under draw. If you want to banish a trap from the grave, and then you can with Kaleido send grief to add it back. But it's so niche. I don't think it's worth it anymore.
Okay, I actually disagree because this play came up a lot when I played internationals last year. I also think I made this play of popping my own Kaleido Heart going first and then ending on Crime and Salik. Maybe 1 or 2 times going first, and then I had Crime to protect my window lock. But let's be honest, this might have been just really, really win more.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess you can get away with no grief. I might have to test it myself and see if I really missed the grief. Yeah, also that basically answered the question why you decided to play no grief at all. Also, another card you decided to cut was the second shuffler, and I have seen
Mm,
lots of the other regionalists which played both Keldo and Modora, and you played only Mudora. And yeah, Mudora over Keldo because Mudora has more attack, unless you just like Keldo more. But objectively, having more attack is better, so you play Mudora over Keldo. But why no Keldo in addition to Mudora?
yeah. Um, I would I would have loved to play Caldo as well because the moment you have a shuffler in grave, like your chances of winning like go way up, way up. Even after Malice. Like having a shuffler in the grave like Mudora and Caldo against Malice going second if you were able to discard it or mill it with grass makes it so much easier to navigate around the Malice board. The issue with Keldo and Mudora is that they're two normal summons, basically. So um, you run into the risk of opening it and not having a way to discard it. Um, and so it makes it where you have ends where they're not fully playable. It's like a brick in your hand. So Mudora at 1 is fine. It's a crazy card. It's insane. If I could make a deal with the devil to add the Keldo in the list but never draw it, I will do it because they're such insane cards in every matchup. Even against Mitsurugi, against Memento, they're insane. They trigger your field spell. They're crazy good, but opening them isn't, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you can argue for the monster bricks because Sharon can discard any monster brick while Sharon can't discard spell and trap bricks. The issue is probably that you have to go Pearl Rhino into Sharon and that plays into the roll. So
Exactly.
yeah, that might be another reason for not playing the Kildo. I get it. Yeah, you also decided to not play Shayama, which is a little bit surprising because I found this card absolutely amazing during my testing. So why no Shayama, which can also make Caesar if you get bestialed on the engraver, for example.
I really hate that line. So I don't know. You commit the sequence to go into that play. I haven't tested it, I have to be honest, but it doesn't seem a crazy good card when you go second. That's something you have to consider. Like if you look at this list right now, almost everything has value when you go second as well. If you don't count like detonator, but everything at least fates an interaction. Shayama seems like a win more card, where in a meta where you're gonna get hit with a lot of mulcharmies, um, you're gonna be forced to go into an half board, and Shayama I think only gets value when you go full combo. That's my opinion. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I haven't tested it, but I also didn't want to use another extra deck spot, which like my extra is already super tight. If I could add like the 16th card in the extra, it would be Goddess, for example, which I missed once when I went an incredible player who played tier in the past, but this time was playing like this was during the 3v3, and he was playing basically Rajul Pur, and he went for a board that was Detonator plus Paguska, basically, which is super simple. It was R to out, and so if I had Goddess in that instance, I think I would just cook them because the moment you out Baguska, Detonator is live. The moment you out Detonator, Baguska is still on field, and so you can't win that turn.
Yeah, I get it, but to be honest, I don't think you have to play Aerial Eater to get the Shayama into rotation. It's just a really good mill by itself. Yeah, but as you said before, it's probably the same as Keldo, a card that you always want to mill, almost never want to draw. So I guess your reasons for not playing Keldo could also apply on Shayama. Yeah, I get it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the list that run this line, the Shayama lines, did they play Malicious and what's it called? Yeah, they play Malicious and also they play Pilgrim.
Yeah, the line with
So
this deck is usually you make, for example, Engraver and the Underworld, no, the Necroker Princess into Pilgrim Reaper first. And then after you went through the Pilgrim Reaper level 5, then you go into a sequence, and then sequence can make Aerial Eater, and then Aerial Eater can dump the Shayama. And then after you went through the Pilgrim Reaper, you can still end on Caesar. That is the line with this list.
let's say with this list, you go first, okay?
Yeah.
And they use Fua against you. Now your end is like left arm, for example, and you have milled a Malicious Engrave, and let's say you also milled Shayama. Like I have the impression that it's so bad because you can't use left arm because it's like there's no reason to. And also Malicious is a dead card under Fua because you give a ton of value just for one body, which is, in my opinion, when you could just instead set a super poly, for example, which is insane form of removal, and you can also use it in tandem with Mascarena to immediately get a Stapelia in rotation because you make a fusion, you go sprint and make Stapelia. I think that's like a removal plus Stapelia. I think that's a really easy board to make whenever you are interrupted with something like Fua, and I don't know. I think it's better to uh, have those sort of half boards that play on the opponent turn rather than having a lot of bricks or soft bricks that are not good going second and are only good whenever you commit the full combo. That's my opinion.
Yeah, fair. I guess that is also the reason for not playing the third Horus, because I saw some people playing three Horus names. Um, yeah, most commonly Damutev, the water Horus.
Okay, yeah, there is a consideration for it. It's fine. However, I really cannot justify in a list like this playing like another Horus. First of all, here you only play with one King's Arc, and so there's no reason to add a brick to the deck if you don't play three King's Arc. But yeah, even whenever I tested it, because I tested Duamutef, so the thing about Duamutef is that if you have all three Horuses on the field whenever you get interrupted with something like Troll or Fua, it's insane. Because you basically trigger all your horses and you draw a ton of cards, you trigger Api, you trigger Inseti, yeah, it's insane. However, um, first of all, you don't draw into end traps, so you have to pray that they don't kill you that turn. Secondly, the discard from Kingsark is very heavy. Like, imagine you have to go onto over a board, so you go second and you activate Kingsark. You're never gonna find you in a situation where you're able to discard three cards in order to set up all your horses in second. So like you have to build your deck keeping in mind that going first, if you go full combo, you win, okay? And you don't need Duamutef for that. And going second, sending three cards to achieve what? Nothing basically. Going second is not worth it, is in my opinion. I'm not saying Duamutef is a bad card. I just don't think it does fit in this meta and in this deck right now.
Yeah, you could also make the consideration to play this one over Harpy against the Mermaid matchup, because the Mermaid deck is almost certainly going to barrier stage lock you, and this is a water that you can summon and then, yeah, out the barrier stage lock. Yeah.
I think that is a good argument, yeah, but I haven't tested. I haven't found at least Mermail against me during the event, so I cannot say if it's a good or bad idea. So I will leave it up to people testing to decide on that. I just think API, the effect of API to add back from banished comes up a lot. Uh, like whenever it does trigger, like the effect of Inseti of being a water is very niche. It's just for one matchup where they probably have a way of popping the King's Arc anyway if you're trying to do that. But yeah, I see the argument. I see the argument. I don't know. You can try it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's only one matchup, and you probably didn't play any Mermaid at all. Yeah, fair.
During the event, no.
Okay, and then you also decide to not play Called by the Grave. And yeah, here in the Lara list we have Called by the Grave, and I think in also every other list, for example the DB Grinder list and the Toronto list, we have Called by the Grave somewhere in the list, but not in yours. So what's the idea behind not playing Called by the Grave?
Hmm. So I've tried it. I didn't draw it enough, and so I would rather have cards that are good when drawn and milled, and Cold by wasn't one of them. I don't know. Going second is good, yeah, but I just couldn't find the space for it. I'm gonna be honest. Like it's a good card, I know, but I wouldn't know what to cut for it. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, tough question, because everything else seems so streamlined. You have very good reasonings for playing lots of those cards at free, and the cards that are bricks as one of, so the least amounts that you need to play the deck, and not more than that. Yeah, I can kind of see that, because everything else, it's most of the times just a 3 off or at 1 with the exception of those two, but you also get the reasoning for playing those ratios. Yeah. Okay, you also decided to not even side deck Called by the Grave. Did you miss it in the side, for example, for going first against animal charmies from the opponent?
No, 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 no. There's this idea that this deck is basically combo or bust, but I'd say it's very good are playing into the merch army. It's weird, but like you don't really care about Purulia at all, Meowls at all. The only cards that are annoying against you are Droll and Fuwa. Under Fuwa, you can always set up some form of interaction, and with Mascarena, for example, um, Tinsmith with the trap in the grave, if you have access to Engraver, for example, because you go Engravers and something normal Lacrima. Um, like this deck is really good at setting up a small board, basically half boards, yeah. And so no, I didn't miss call by, like I probably wouldn't even draw it. So yeah, it's the side is so tight as well as the main that I really can't think of something to cut to add cold by. At that point, if I am really interrupted, I'd rather go trust into like a sanctum or mischief and stop with that. Like, don't skip your opponent.
Okay, yeah, I guess that seems logical. Yeah, now we almost covered the entire main deck. I would have to ask about a couple of cards in extra deck. For example, Agnamde, which is a card that was not played in any of the previous lists, if I remember correctly. So it's not in the Lara list, not in the Grinder list, and not in the list from the Toronto regional. But you decided to play Agnamde. Yeah, so what are the most important applications of this card that made you decide to play this card over something else? For example, a Pilgrim Reaper.
Okay, so this card is just insane. It helps you OTKing going second. It helps you making a board going first. Because you can set up both, as I said, Caesar and Desiree whenever you open Engraver or Lacrima. It's insane because whenever you have access to Lacrima, which is always basically because the Fate engine is so splashable, you can use the body of Desiree for free to go into Mascarena and then reborn the Desiree with Lacrima and Acting Day. So this card is so insane in the grind game. This card is so insane and won me almost every game against Malice because the it threatens the OTK and often does OTK Malice because after what basically this game, my game plan against Malice is either winning with grass or forcing all the interactions going into Fizmit and OTKing. Like my game against Maris, I think the first or the second Maris I found during the run, my hand was Hess. I was able to no, I think I had the Kashtiras plus Droplet, so I was able to force the full board of Malice with those few cards. I went normal, Lurry, and OTK'd. Like, Agdom Day is such a busted card against Malice. It's insane. Like normal Lurry and your opponent starts pissing their pants. It's insane. I will recommend anyone to play this card. It's insane.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, especially when you consider that Malice has to pay a couple of life points during the combo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then you also played Garura, but I guess you have to play Garura in the extra deck if you want to play Super Polymerization. You could also go for the approach from Toronto list and yeah, put the Super Polymerization into the side deck combined with the Garura in matchups where you absolutely want to have the Garura, and then you have more extra deck space. But you already mentioned why you want to play Super Poly over something like Left Arm Offering. I guess, playing Super Poly without Garura is not an option. And then you went for IP, but you decided to not play Pilgrim Reaper and Area Eater. Yeah, we already discussed why not playing Area Eater. And yeah, did you miss the Pilgrim Reaper at all? Because I think one of the biggest advantages of the Fiends of Engine in tier is that you have a Mill 5 setup, and you just decided to play no Mill 5 setup at all, just going for the Caesar as your endboard piece with the Fiends stuff. How do you feel about not playing Pilgrim Reaper, and did you ever miss the Pilgrim Reaper?
Okay, so miss never. Uh, I think Pilgrim Reaper was really good in the context of Lara's list, for example, because we still had Toad. That's my opinion. Like Pilgrim Reaper was good with Malicious because you had ways of basically making Toad by milling like Rhinoheart and you already had the Malicious Engrave, so that basically secured you a way to beat Nib. It was an endboard piece, but you have to consider post-ban list, we lost Bahamut, so Toad is not an option. So if you try to go full combo and you use your Necro Whip to mill instead of going to Caesar, like if anyone has a Nib, you're cooked. Like you have to play keeping Nib in consideration, whereas like your opponent, since you don't have any Omni negates, you're basically gonna go to the end phase. They're gonna nib you, and you're gonna cry basically because oftentimes you have to play into nib. Like if you want to access the trap with Kaleidoar, you have to send him to grave to send Scream to access the trap. Now, if they nib you in the end phase, Kaleido already used the effect to reborn itself, and so you lose to nib. Therefore, you need Caesar, which is first of all insane into the meta, because it's good into Malice, it's good into Mitsurugi, it's not that good into what's it called, Ryzel. Yeah, let's say not playing not going for Caesar whenever you go Finsmith right now is just wrong, because Pilgrim is never gonna give you the same values that Caesar gives you. Caesar plus Trapping Grave, which is insane. Keep in mind, if you remember the list from Lara, she said, I believe, that they wanted to find a spot to run the trap, the Finsmith trap in Paradise, and so that was what I did. I tried to play the Finsmith trap, and that with losing Toad, I also had to add something to beat Nib.
Yeah, you also explained the issues with the Toronto list, especially with malicious Anafualos, which might be the reason why going Pilgrim Reaper and then sequence into Area Eater into Shayama just to still end on Caesar is not an option for you. Yeah, but still interesting to hear that you never missed a Mill 5.
No, never, never.
Yeah, which is unheard of when you think about the tier deck, because this deck was known to be the deck that mills as many cards as possible, and yeah, now
Mhm.
it doesn't have the mill nature anymore, and apparently it doesn't need to mill that many cards to still be successful.
Yeah, sometimes, as sad as it is, as I said in the beginning, like you can see my field, my endboard, and sometimes you're not gonna see even one Tearlament card. However, like Tearlament is still one of the key strengths of the deck, because it's an insane way to first set up an endboard and second to break boards. Like if you just take this deck as a glorified Finsmith deck, you don't appreciate the value that the trust into grass gives you, and that like grass won me so many games during the event. Like that card is so busted. Shit.
I get it. Maybe the mile 5 is not needed anymore if you can just mill 20 with grass. By the way, how often did you resolve grass during the tournament?
I can check because I have a report. Let's see. Sometime, like I think during the event, I open grass more times than I trusted for it, which is insane. Let's see. 4 times, I think. So I use grass against Mitsu. Then I used only once against no, I used grass against two of my Malice opponents, and it won me the game. And sometimes, like grass is so crazy that going second, I start playing. They draw me. I use grass and I win under draw. Going second against full board like Rajon Mitsu, for example. That's one way I told you you can beat that board. There was only one instance. Oh, right. Yeah, I use grass 5 times because I even used it against Cristron. But I basically in that matchup I had to droplet for 4, and so I committed hard into trust into grass, but he ashed it. So I had to play the game 3.
Yeah, rough. Okay. Yeah, and then IP. So, how valuable was IP for you?
I think Mascarena is kind of a must because like I make her basically every time I get lost. Yeah, it's so nice. She makes sprint. She can make SP. I think she's very flexible. Also, under in a meta with Mitsurugi and Murakumo, you often use her to like make a sprint that doesn't get popped by the effect of Murakumo. You can make SP that doesn't get popped. I'd say she's overall pretty nice. Also, it's really, really, really good whenever you have Desiree on the field, and Agnum Day especially, because let's say you don't have a way to send your own Kaleido to the grave whenever you make it. You first use the effect of Desiree to negate something, then you use the effect of Mascarena and you resolve both Mascarena and then Desire to send your own Kaleido to grave, which triggers special itself and spins. So you can make another fusion and you spin one from your opponent. So it's a very layered interaction.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So you basically, yeah, kinda a sprint when you have Kaleido already on board. So there's a way to send Kaleido Hut also comes up when you have the trap in grave. But now being able to
Exactly.
proactively, yeah, using Desiree to send Kaleido and then summon back Kaleido, spin one card, and then make Drago Stapelia probably with the Desiree. It's just
Yeah,
really
exactly,
strong in
exactly.
theory. Okay.
Because you use the Desire to make Stapelia, yeah.
Yeah, I might have to try this line out for myself. So how many interruptions are those? So you have the SP banish, then the SP second banish, then yeah, Desiree, you already used the Omni negate, so 3 interruptions. Then Kaleido Heart spin, this is 4, and then Dragos Tapelia for the 5th. Whoa, 5 interactions with very simple setups. That sounds pretty strong.
Yeah, like if you are able to see all your engines in a meta where Heavenly especially doesn't see much play, like this deck just wins on its like your opponent just scoops because it's so layered, so many interactions, and yeah.
Yeah, that really convinced me, so I really have to try out IP for myself. Okay, and now let's go to the side deck. You played lots of hand traps, which is, I mean, not that surprising, but still kinda unusual because most board breaker lists play most of the times more board breakers. And here you went full on hand traps with 3 Lancia, 3 Fuvalos, 3 Purilia, 3 Droll, and then some going first cards. Yeah, so I I guess it's obvious that you cite in Lancia for Malice, and then the question is, how many Purulias do you cite in, and do you cite all six or just three Fuvalos when you go second against Malice?
Yeah. Okay, so Droll is pretty good into the meta, and the idea was that whenever they fool you, you can troll yourself, but that never came up during testing or during event. We can go over setting pattern.
Yeah, let's go to the solo mode and let's do the patterns in the solo mode.
Yeah.
So we
Okay,
play
so
against Malice. What do we cite?
let's do going first.
Yeah,
So you put three Lancea,
yeah.
then Sanctum, and you cut one Super Poly,
One super poly,
three Droplet.
free droplet.
That's your going first.
That's all going first.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess me too, you do the same, but you only put three droll instead of three droplet.
Yeah.
I guess Raizel Mitsu, you add.
Wait. Do you cite this against pure Mitsu because it could also mess up the levels with the ritual summons?
No, I don't, because they have ways to play around it. They have two ways to play around it, so it's not worth it. You only cite this against Raizel Mitsu, and it won me a game.
Okay.
So you do that per poly.
Yeah. So this is our pattern for Raizel Mitsu going first, and yeah, if we play against pure Mitsu, we do not cite the mischief. We keep the word super poly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
So if we go second into Malice,
Yeah.
we do all the Murcharmis and Lancea.
Okay. So 9 cards against Malice, and what do we take out?
Okay. You cut two screens,
Yeah. 2 Scream,
Mad Noise.
Meta Noise,
Okay, set rotation,
Set Rotation,
3 Karma,
Trivi Karma.
Diorus Field Spell,
Yeah. Horror Field Spell.
Kingsark 1,
Yeah. 1 Sark.
Fiendsmith in Paradise,
Paradise.
and 1 Unicorn.
1 Unicorn. Okay. So this is our pattern for Malice going second. And
Against Mitsu Pure,
yeah.
you go 3 Fua, 3 Droll,
Yeah. Free Fuwa, free Droll.
and you cut set rotation,
Yeah. Set Rotation,
Diorus Field Spell,
Horror Field Spell.
2 Screams,
Yeah. 2 Screams,
Meta Noise,
Meta Noise,
Fiendsmith in Paradise.
Fiendsmith in Paradise.
Against Radial Mitsu,
Yeah.
all the Mulcharmis and Roll. You cut the 3 Super Polis.
Yeah. Free Super Poly, 2 Scream.
Yeah, you can decide if you want to keep set rotation. So go Meta Noise for now.
Yeah. Meta Noise.
1 Kingsark.
1 Kingsark.
Walls of the Imperial Tomb, yeah.
Yeah.
The Fiendsmith in Paradise.
Yeah. Paradise.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Checks out 9 cards.
You could keep like a Super Poly in the place of 3V Karma if you want. Like I decide at the moment, it's more of a vibe thing.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, what other decks do we have? Yeah, Blue Eyes.
A Blue Eyes, it's pretty fine. Yeah, you can do like Fua and Roll, let's say. And you cut again the Screams, set rotation, Meta Noise, the Horus Field Spell, and in Paradise as you were doing. And that's it.
Yeah. So I get a general pattern for the cards that you want to side out, and I guess it's probably the same for decks like Mermail or Memento. Yeah, so
Yeah,
the question is
exactly.
just how many cards do you side in against those? Do you go
Yeah,
for
yeah.
all Charmies and roll against Memento?
Uh, no, you go the six more charmies against
Go for
Memento
6
because
Charmies for Memento?
because Memento has ways of playing around roll, even if they open any of the spell cards, basically.
And for Mermail, we
So
side the roll into Mermail, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then this. Yeah,
And
we
3 Karma or a Unicorn, basically.
yeah we keep the Super Poly because we obviously want to out the Barrier Statue look.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess that covers the majority of deck, except for some other rogue stuff like Fiendsmith Odeon. But I don't think the
Uh,
deck is too
yeah,
popular.
yeah, I really hate Odeon, like at a design level. But yeah, Super Poly is kind of good there because the traps all have the same attributes. So if if they are good players, they have ways to play around it by activating like the Apophis trap as Chainlink 1 and Chainlink 2 another trap. But if they already summoned like what's it called? The Statue of Anguish, for example, to get an early pop, you can punish them. So they go the Apophis trap, and you immediately go Super Poly. So the chain ends, and they basically negate nothing because they don't have any more traps on the field.
That sounds kinda nasty. Let's see how often the stake will be at the German and British nationals because no one at my locals is playing it currently, and I just don't have that much experience against the deck. Yeah, and then going first, yeah, I guess we already went over it, except we go for discard against Ryzel. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, scattershot for timeout. How often did you go into timeout?
Okay, so it was really weird because at the event there was a problem where they didn't set up enough screens for time. So I often will say didn't play with time as a factor, as wild as it is. Like there was my friends spectating me behind me, and they told me I went one game into sequence with 20 seconds left on the clock, and then I OTK'd that turn. So time was like it's less of a consideration if you are able to pilot the deck well and you already know your game plan. But with Scattershot, I won 2 games out of 13 basically. Sadly, you have to play it because Mitsurugi takes so long as a matchup. They have so much recursion, they have so much grind, and yeah, Scattershot just ensures you that you win in time. Um, this is also a deck that lets your opponent go full combo, so you're gonna see through basically your combo, your opponent combo, and your combo again. So inevitably, you may find yourself in a situation where Scattershot is needed to win in time. Um, but not too often. Like I'd say 2 times out of 13 rounds is a fair ratio. Another time I found myself losing in time was against Mitsupur, where I had lethal, but I just didn't have enough time to go into Fizmit again. Like I had to go into Agnum Day and I would have won, but there was no time, and also for this fact that there were not enough screens to check the time, and so I often played without that as a consideration.
Yeah, I have to remember last European World Championship qualifier where the Temper Dragon player played 3 copies of Spooky Dogwood in his side deck, which doesn't make any sense on the surface, but when you think a little bit deeper, then it makes actually perfectly sense because his deck was a heavy board breaker deck. So the game plan was to allow the opponent to go full combo and then throw a couple board breakers on them and OTK with the Temper engine. And if the
Mhm.
opponent goes full combo instead of passing after 1 or 2 hand traps and then getting temper OTK'd, which usually takes a lot less time compared to allowing the opponent to go full combo and then breaking them and then going 10 by combo after you removed every single interaction. This takes lots of time, so Spooky Dogworld worked in his deck. And yeah, with that gameplay in mind, you must allow the opponent to go for combo and then break the board. I see why Scattershot is mandatory. Yeah. And then I have another question about time management itself. So let me first tell you a story from my nationals last year. I was playing against a really weak branded player in the early rounds, and I knew I might get into a position where I can potentially win this game. But the thing is, my hand was not really good. I was just able to set up a Scream, a Salik, no Pearl Rhino, and just a couple buddies to stay alive, but not enough buddies to make a really aggressive board on my side and yeah, beat the branded board that he currently had. And he was just not using his Mirror Jade banish at all. Maybe because he was unfamiliar with the tier deck and didn't know where to interrupt with Mirror Jade. So I had the feeling throughout the entire game I might be able to outplay this guy if I just draw a single playable card. And then I drew lots of awful cards, like for example Keldo. I milled all my good cards. Yeah, for example, with the final mill 3, I milled Pearl Rhino and Trivikama together, and I had to use the Keldo Shuffle just to bring back the Pearl Rhino into the deck so that I can use the Trivikama to search the Pearl
Mm.
Rhino. And then I lost to some dumb shit like my opponent making Sanctifier Dragon while I was out of removal and I had only 500 life points left because I had to pay 600 life points for the Texas Dragon. Yeah, maybe I could have won the entire match if I just scooped pretty early when I saw my hand was not that winnable. But how do you proceed with this when you see your opponent might not be good enough to beat you, but also your hand is not good enough to beat a mid opponent? Do you rather concede and try to win as fast as possible in game 2, or do you really try your best to play matches or games like this out until the winner is clearly decided, even if it means you are almost certainly going to timeout? How do you pilot through
Mm.
games like
Yeah.
this?
Okay. It depends because if the last game, yeah. So last game I go first basically. If I consider this hypothetical game, right? So I decide to do this when there are like 6 or 5 minutes, because that's approximately how long it takes to make a combo and send scattershot. The thing is that without Toad, the scattershot play is not that guaranteed because they can imperm your sprint, they can ash it, they can veiler it. So it's always better to still try to win the game in during the grind. Keep in mind that a lot of the cards that you draw during the grinds, sorry, are power cards. So there's a good chance they could bring you back in the game. But most importantly, Beansmeat is always the constant that during grind secures you uh, go back into advantage. Like this engine is so busted, and the reason I decided to play Agnum Day is so insane in the grind game with Lacrima. I think this issue of going into a back and forth into this sort of grind is what this deck excels at. But yeah, if you see that your opponent like sets up like a crystal board that pops you every turn there, and you know there's no chance you're coming back, just go to the next game. Unless that happens, just try to go all the way. Yeah, because this deck has the capabilities to do so.
Yeah, so you talked about Crystron. Can you recap all of your matchups in general and how often you won the dice roll?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So let's see. So it was an awkward run because round one, I go up against Memento. I win the dice and I go 2-0. I get Fualos in game one, and game two he goes first and he breaks basically. Round two, I go up against Mitsurugi Pur. I go 0-2 because I lost the dice, and it's the game I told you about that I lost in time, so we could have drew that one if I had time to go into Agnum Day. I also lost the other round. I went against Raizal Mitsu. Went 1-2, winning the dice because I got punished for committing into Fuwalos because I got nibbed afterwards. And game three, it went full combo, and my hand was not great. But after these two losses, it was it was weird because I went to nationals with the idea of playing Edison. I didn't have much preparation for standard, I have to be honest. I played a fuck ton of Edison, and I wanted to play Edison at a side event. So after these two losses, I bought a ticket to go to the main event of Edison. The issue was that after these two losses, I haven't lost a single game basically. So round four, I went against Malice. I lost the dice and I broke the full board under Droll and OTK with Agnum Day. This is the game I told you about where I went normal Lurry. Round five, I went against Raidel Mitsu and I went 2-0, losing the dice. Basically, I broke the full board twice, where I won basically through his full board plus nib. Game two instead, I had Purulia and Fualos, which I drew off Purulia, and he took the challenge and played into the Mulch Army, which is something you cannot do against my deck because I drew into the God End, and basically he even had talent to shuffle back. But I basically OTK'd him for centuries and lifetimes. I destroyed him, poor guy. Round six against Raizal Mitsu, I went 2-1, losing the dice. I won game one with grass. Game two I lost it, and game three I had to use scattershot. Yeah, this is one of the games I won with of the two games that I won with scattershot. Round seven, I went against Mitsupur, winning the dice, and I went the full combo where you go both Desiree and Caesar, plus the board with Rhino art, Kaleido art. Game two, I had a bad end and lost it. Game three, it was the other game where I had to go for a scattershot. Round eight, I went against Malice and went 2-1, losing the dice. Game one, he bricked. Game two, I had grass and droplet, and but he was able to win it still using mistaken arrest and cold buy. Game three, he used double Purulia, and I end on Kaleido art plus Desiree equipped with Agdom Day and Sequence equipped, and also I had the Finsmith in Paradise set. So whenever I try to play, I use Desiree, then use the In Paradise, which triggered both. We clear his field and trigger Kaleido art. Round 9, I went against Raziel Mitsu and I won the dice. I went 2-1. Game 1, it basically turn skipped me with roll, but I still remain in the game thanks to Super Poly. When I start playing, he uses Nibiru against me. However, he loses to his own Nibiru token because it was huge and I attacked him for game. Game 2, I tried to play through his full board, but he defeats me. Yeah, because he also had ED Crow in hand. Game 3 was insane because he used Fua against me. I make a pretty solid board. I had Mascarena, Fenrir, Kaleido, and Finsmith Trap in Grave. And I hard drew the Mischief of the Gnomes, but Mischief won me the game. So afterwards, it was day 2. Day 2, I went against Malice, Simoncelli, I think, the player. Okay, so I lost game 1. Game 2, he uses both Ash, Impulse, and Magnamut. I set Sanctum with Trust, which he ashed, but Caesar and Paradise won me the game, sorry. Game 3 was the hand where it was busted. I had Purulia, Super Polygrass, King Sarcophagus, and Unicorn. So I Purulia him. He ends with White Binder, Akkad, and GVC. I special unicorn, I use the effect, it goes impermanence. I super poly, then try to go into Finsmith and draw with Garura, and he draws me. He uses GVC to banish Requiem Engraver with Binder. I use Grass and OTK with Horus, Agnum Day, and Kaleido. Okay, the next round was against Mitsurugi Pure, and I won the dice. I went 2-0. Game 1, I was under Fualos, and I make a bad board, but I was still able to stop him, and then OTK win with Finsmith. Game 2, he ends with Mascarena, Murakumo, and Mitsurugi Trap. I droplet him, thrust into grass after I force his interactions. Then I arrive at a spot where I have basically Kaleido on the field. I had Finsmith, so Engraver, in the grave. I reborn Engraver, go Requiem, special Engraver, Requiem e keep to Engraver. Engraver send Requiem and Kaleido, because I needed another body to go into Finsmith, and so trigger Kaleido, send Agnes to fuse into Madragon, go into Finsmith, and OTK for game.
Wow,
Then I
that
went.
sounds pretty cool.
Then I went into top 32, and I faced an awesome Crystron player. Awesome player, great sportsmanship. I won the dice and I go 2-1. So game 1, I basically misplayed because I was removing 3 Stalos from the field, and he tried to go into the Samurai Destroyer, I think it's called, the Synchro 7 that reborns itself when sent to grave. I used 2 interactions to send him to grave because I wanted to deny the effect of 3 Stalos to pop a synchro to special. However, I realized later that the effect of Samurai to bring himself back is not once per turn, so I basically wasted 1 interaction. But no, I won that game anyway. Game 2 was the game I told you about, where I had to droplet for 4 cards and commit everything into Trust. But the moment I used Trust, he ashed it. And so if it wasn't for that ash, I 100% had little. But game 3, I go first again, I Lancea him. We have a small back and forth, but I win. Then the last game I had was against Mitsurugi Pur, where I win the dice, I lose game 1, I win game 2, and I lose the third game because he had Dogwood, and I didn't want to. We had basically 8 minutes left. I didn't want to commit into Dogwood because it was would have been too much advantage for him. And this was the feature match, by the way. The play I was mostly proud of, which sadly the commentators didn't pick up on, because I basically used Zombie Vampire, and I milled 4 cards where I had both Droll, Engraver, and Farrier. I decided to special Droll with Zombie Vampire so that I could go into Sprint, use the second effect of Sprint to bounce back the Droll back to hand, detach him from Zombie Vampire, and basically my board was Kaleido plus Saliek plus Fenrir plus Birth plus the Droll in Hand plus Mascarena plus the Requiem in Grave, I believe. So it was insane. And the commentators were asking why I didn't send with the Sprint, but the effect of Sprint says that you can only use one effect of Sprint per turn. You cannot use both. And that that play was only ever came up in my dreams, and I'm really proud that it came up during the feature match. But yeah, both me and my opponent had a great match in the feature, I'd say. So I was really proud of ending my run that way.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like 5000 IQ. I could never imagine it. Yeah, I didn't even know that this was possible. I guess you always learn something new. I was just unfortunate seeing the spooky dog word. May I have to go back, watch entire feature match to see if there was any possibility to win this if I had just more time on the clock, I guess. But it was still pretty rough. It was
Mhm.
nevertheless absurdly yeah, crazy tournament run with Tearlaments, which is considered unplayable and rogue at best by the majority of people, and you just said fuck it, I'm going to top with this deck, and you made it an event comparable to the size of a North American YCS. Absolutely crazy.
Thank you, thank you. That said, my biggest joy was seeing people coming up to me and telling me that I basically inspire them to pick up a deck they love and try to be as successful as possible with it. And I believe it's possible, and it's very rewarding. Like I if I enter this tournament with Malice or Mitsurugi, um, today I will not feel the same way I feel right now.
Yeah, a similar experience. I don't regret it picking up the elements last year. And let's see what I can do with this deck myself in less than 1 week, or the British people or the other German people. Okay, and now let's go into solo mode again and do some test hands. So here we have this hand. I guess we always start with the Fenrir.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, then yeah,
You add tier cash or unicorn, whatever you want.
yeah, probably Unicorn, and then bench it from the hand. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
So you activate Scream.
yeah, then Scream, and then Tear Cash.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, so banish. And now
You
do we play around the Ghost Ogre on the Scream?
Yeah, absolutely. You have no reason not to. So you go Chainlink 1 Scream and Chainlink 2 to Cash.
Yeah,
And you mill 6.
so keyboard striking again, so middle 6. Okay,
Okay. So you can go Shiren.
yeah, we can go Sharon, and
And you can consider here. You can either go into Madragon
yeah,
just to have. Yeah, I think you'd go Madragon. So no, with the Imseti.
yeah, Imseti and not Garura. Yeah, Guerrero was also a consideration, but we might want to keep Havnis as a normal summon for the Fiendsmith
Exactly.
engine later.
Or you can even keep it in hand.
Yeah.
So
Then we have a mill 6
you
setup
go,
during the opponent's turn.
yeah, exactly. And here you can go with Madragon and Tirkash into Frisbee.
Yeah. So Moon.
And you have basically Fenrir
Requiem.
plus Caesar plus Finsmith Trapping Grave.
Yeah, so we go.
And then you have
Requiem.
Adnis. And you can even use the, since you're gonna have, okay, you do the Finsmith combo.
Yeah, let's just play it out just for the tutorial once. Now we go. Yeah, first of all,
Yeah.
Necroquip. So Necroquip, then Engraver, shuffling back the Moon. Then we make Caesar. Okay. And then during the opponent's turn, we have the Black Goat.
And you can consider here, whenever you trigger the In Paradise, you can even, if your meals with Avnis were not good, you can even send your own Avnis to grave with In Paradise.
Yeah,
Well,
that
not
play
bad.
is nasty. Yeah, that play came up a lot during my testing with the Toronto list, where you play the Shadows, and then if the opponent special summons anything, you first of all drop the Huffness. So let's mill free with the Huffness, and yeah, free with the Scream in New Chain. I just shortcut here. So let's say you milled a Shadow, then you can go Paradise, Vanish, send the Desiree, I guess. Oh, and we also have Rhino Heart. That means we can, yeah, we can first.
Oh, right. Yeah,
We
you can make
shuffle
Kaleido.
back this one to send Huffness, then Huffness, the Turtle, and the Rhino Heart equals Kaleido Heart. So, yeah, do you have any
That's right.
preferred zones? I guess we just
Yeah,
respect Anima.
Anima is not seeing much play,
Yeah.
but yeah, you
Funny
during
enough,
the
during the Italian National, there was one purely that got top 32, and this could be a deck with Anima and extra deck, but we don't know the deck list yet. Yeah, but in general, we do not have to respect Anima. But just in case you want to respect Anima, I guess we can summon the Lacrima in this zone and then Kaleido Heart here. Probably not in the EMC, just in case we want to do some link stuff in the next turn. Yeah,
and yeah, like you
Fenrir
during the
Vanish.
event, I went a lot of times into this sort of very mediocre boards, apparently, but they are just enough interactions if you're able to use them smartly to buy you time to go into the next turn and OTK with Winsmith and the follow up you have, basically. Like, try to draw the next card, for example.
Yeah, but first of all, let's cover the interactions that we currently have. So here we have Fenrir, Banish, then opponent has a 500 list, which makes it harder for the opponent to attack over a Caesar or the Fenrir. Then we have two summon negates, some already free interruptions. Then we have the Black Goat that we just milled and the Kaleido Heart. So 5 interactions currently, and with the next card. Fenrir doesn't really matter, but let's assume the opponent wants to play in our board. We use one Caesar negate. Then I guess we can just shuffle back the Desiree or whatever. Yeah, then go into Requiem again with the Engraver or Lacrima. Honestly, probably better to link away the Lacrima for Engraver. For Requiem, yeah. So Lacrima for Requiem, then Engraver, then yeah, then Requiem, and then we send this one, then we bring Kaleido Heart back, dumping the Hafnis, and then we get the Drago Stapelia with the Mud Dragon that we already have on the board, and yeah, that should be more than 8k, and we still haven't committed into the sequence, into Desiree. Yeah,
Exactly.
solid.
If you go for sequence and Agnum Day, it's just an insane amount of damage in a turn. So it always almost guarantees you an OTK.
Yeah, and the opponent is still minus 500 during our turn because we have the Scream. Okay, let's just do another hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there are some very greedy lines, and this is perfect. So it's not really correct because you play around. I mean, it doesn't come up, but let's say add Perla Rhino. Activate Perla Rhino.
Yeah.
Add Reinhardt.
Okay, Rhino Heart.
Yeah. Like, this is probably not what I would do, but it's a line you can go for whenever you open Rainbow Bridge. So yeah, you Scream.
Yeah, Scream. Set 1.
Normal. Yeah, you can do that, but let's not consider you have the pop from the field spell. Go normal
Okay.
Reinhardt. Like,
Yeah.
let's say you didn't open the field spell.
Yeah, let's say we
Go normal.
just hard through the Rhino Heart instead of the Polar Rhino.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send Shiren, for example.
Yeah, so what chainlinks would you go for?
Yeah, you can do Scream, Chainlink 1, and Chainlink to
Rhino Heart.
2.
Yeah. So I personally prefer to dump Hafnis first, but it doesn't really matter which one you go first, I guess. You just need to use
Always,
Worthy last.
but I always prefer to go for Shiren first. Then Avnis.
Okay.
Just because you're gonna sometimes add the Shiren to use the effect to special herself from hand. So yeah, you go Shiren and go into Garura.
Yeah. Where is Garura? There he is.
Yeah, okay. Then you go into Finsmith and you draw one.
So then we draw one with Garura. Holy shit!
Okay. Let's say you didn't draw Imseti. Let's say you didn't draw Imseti. Go into Requiem.
So
Go into Requiem.
yeah, I mean this one would also unbreak it, the Salvation.
Yeah. But,
I'm tripping, so we go into Requiem and then Requiem into Lacrima, I guess.
yeah. Lacrimas and Engraver.
Lacrima and Engraver. And now? Neck Grip and then
yeah.
Engraver effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, then Engraver. Then we draw one. Yeah, we already checked for draw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now tracked. Yeah, we already normal summoned the Rhino. That means we cannot normal summon the Lurie. Yeah.
Go for sequence here. Go tracked. Basically, just go to a spot where you can go. This is just to show something which is a really greedy line, but could come up whenever you draw Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah, so I guess a Graver here over Lurie, but it doesn't really matter, right?
You can send the Lurie just to get an extra body.
So we are not discarding the Rainbow Bridge.
It's just to showcase how you can send Rainbow Bridge to grave whenever you access two bodies. Like we were lucky drawing Engraver.
Yeah, I can almost see the line. That is, yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, you basically go sequence into here. You set the Rainbow Bridge and you go into Agnum Day, and with Desiree you send your Rainbow Bridge to grave,
Yeah, so
which opens up your place. That into Agnum Day, and then you're gonna reborn the next turn the Desiree. Here, shuffle back the sequence, I guess.
yeah. You could also go for the Requiem and then equip the sequence.
Yeah, this is just to showcase the line.
But honestly, I think the more correct way would be shuffling back the Requiem here, and then we have sequence in the graveyard that we still can equip. Yeah. Okay, so here we send the Rainbow Bridge with the Agnamde, and then we can activate the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah. It's just a way to unbreak your hand whenever you draw Rainbow Bridge with just two bodies. It's a greedy line, but it does come up. Since we already used our normal, you can add the Horus Field spell. Like, oftentimes you're gonna be able to do this with the Kashtiras, which are just free, so that is way better.
Yeah, then we can
But yeah.
add Imsity.
If you want, we can do another test stand.
Yeah, just let's see if we can get into Kashtira with the Horus. So we put this
Okay, sure.
to the bottom. Okay. So
like what I will do here, by the way, is using that using the effect of Agnum Day to reborn Desiree. Since you, at least at the end of the board, since you already have the Lacrima Grave, you just use the body of Desiree to go into Mascarena. Like as soon as you put another body on field, like at the end of the end board, you go Desiree into Mascarena. That's it. If you already reborn it for the next turn with Lacrima.
yeah, so here we could go for grass, make it even crazier.
Like here, I will send. It depends. Like I will have I played it differently, of course, but like yeah, you can send Droplet and send Api, and then mill with Zombie Vampire and consider your options. Then you could keep Grass for the next turn even. Like your end board is already pretty layered with Mascarena and Desiree. There's no reason to Grass on top of it. You're gonna probably mill something with Zombie Vampire anyway.
We mill 4. Rhinoheart, not the greatest mill, but at least one body that could summon. Yeah, and then I guess link those two into IP.
In this case, you go right and Zombie Vampire.
Yeah, we could link the Vampire, then we have
No, no.
Rhinoheart on the board for Scream, right?
In this case, since we have an additional body, I would have sent Reinhardt instead of Desiree.
Oh, yeah.
So you have Desiree on board with equipped with Agnum Day and Sequence. And then at any point, you are free to use the effect of Mascarena to send Desiree, which makes check the grave. It should make Kaleido for the spin.
Yeah, then we still
so,
have the Scream Mill free. I'm kind of tripping.
so I equipped the sequence to Desiree.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the entire point of keeping sequence in the graveyard. And now we
So
have
let's say you pass with this,
yeah.
okay? Even if they force the negate of Desiree early, it's fine. Or if they use like a form of removal on Desiree, you can just chain Mascarena and use them. Make Sprint. Sprint is going to make send Merly. Merly is going to make Kaleido. And then you also have the send of Desiree. And then at any point you just reborn that Lacrima.
Yeah, here
So
the sprint is also
with two
chain
bodies,
blocked.
you have a ton of interactions.
Yeah, so here I guess we
A
can shuffle
sequence.
back the sequence. Send Merly. Yeah, and now we have the luxury of choice, so we can make Kaleido Heart with the Rhino Heart or Drago Stapelia. So yeah, maybe high roll into Modora or Black Goat. Okay, okay. Here we get a Tier Cache. Or also Havnas. But we already went through the Desiree.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to use grass while we had it.
Yeah.
Oh shit, this
Okay.
hand seems
This
cracked.
hand is in.
Pretty cracked.
This hand is in.
Yeah.
Basically, okay, this is perfect. Let's assume they don't have draw.
Yeah.
But in this case, okay, let's play around draw, for example.
Okay.
Here, wanna play around draw, the first thing you do is special unicorn, and then you add Perla Rhino. Yeah, as you did
Yeah.
right. With Perla Rhino,
Per Rhino.
you basically always add yeah, you add Rhino here, Reinhardt here.
Yeah, Rhino Heart here.
And you check for draw. If they don't have draw, this end is insane.
Yeah, and if they draw, we
Yeah.
know what deck they are on.
Hmm?
If they draw us,
Exactly.
yeah.
And you also have the super poly. Yeah, this end is correct. So you add with unicorn. Now what we wanna do is go for a Finbit line to basically ensure our board doesn't play into Nib. And so
Okay.
we go Engraver. Yeah.
Engraver.
Attract.
Yeah. Sometimes it's pretty hard to find the one specific card you need in 60.
Attract into left.
Yeah,
You can already set it
Lurry.
into grave.
Yeah, we sent the Lurry to grave. The Lurry.
Special. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I will just skip a step here. So Lurry special summon, and then we go into Requiem, move the Lurry.
Lacrimas and Engraver.
Yeah, Lacrima.
Now this is what I will do. Yeah, send Engraver.
Send Engraver.
Okay, you don't Necro here.
Yeah.
What you do here is check the grave. Okay, go into sequence with unicorn and yeah.
Yeah. I have an idea which line is coming.
Activate bird.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. First of all, birth.
Okay, so you got sequence. Yeah.
Sequence.
Graver,
Yeah.
Requiem, and
Lurry. Yeah, now we make.
you go into Desiree.
Now we make the Deserator 1. Then
Agnum
Agnamde.
Day, effect to equip Desiree. Necro-Whip.
Necro-Whip, and then Engraver.
You shuffle back the sequence.
Sequence.
Yeah.
Now we have the Caesar. And now we can just drop the birth on Unicorn. And then...
Here you can just...
I'm tripping. I guess one line that we might consider is Rhino to dump the tier cache.
Enter card.
Yeah.
Unicorn might... Like, you still do what you said. You try to go for Rhino, center cache, see what you mill. If you don't mill anything good, you just set super poly, and this 4 should be enough, basically. You can consider either super poly or droplet if you had the info from Unicorn on what they were playing, whichever is better.
Okay. So now we milled nothing, just burial goods and the droplet. Do we go for tier cache or Unicorn?
Unicorn, let's say.
Yeah, Unicorn. Yeah, and now we have... I mean, we have the birth interruption anyway from the tier cache.
Another play you could have done here with Rhino.
Yeah.
You send Chiren or Avnis and don't use the effect. Then go into Mascarena with Unicorn and Reinhardt. So the next turn you make sprint with Desiree once you use the effect, and you make Kaleido basically, because you're gonna have Rhino plus one Wither that you didn't use yet, and Merle.
So let's say we dump Sharon here, then we go birth into Unicorn, then we go with those two into IP, and then during the opponent's turn we go Lacrima into Agnamde, and then Agnamde into Desiree, and then IP with this. After we already used the effect of Agnamde into this. Yeah, and we do not have to use both negates. We could also just bounce. Never mind. We cannot use both effects in the same turn. I remember. Yeah. Yeah, and then Merle. Yeah, and because
you're gonna have Kaleido and a pop.
Hard pop. Oh, those are so many interruptions. So 2 negates then.
And just the moment, basically, they use the effect of they force you to use Caesar. You're gonna have engrave to go into Fizzmetacan, basically. Beware of the zones for sprint, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I should probably... Yeah, those should be the correct zones. I'm just tripping a little bit.
No worries.
Okay, one more. Yeah, I see why this deck was so successful. The lines are pretty crazy. Okay, this hand doesn't look that amazing, but there's still a way to play this out.
So whenever you have hands like this, keep in mind that Finsmith is super easy to access.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go Desiree into Tract into Lurry. You can go, like, you can do that, but go, for example, Engraver into Tract into Engraver and discard the Rainbow Bridge. That way you access the Horus Engine, which basically fixes your hands. And also, since you discard the Rainbow Bridge, you have a water to go into Kaleido, which is insane. Like whenever you have Rainbow Bridge and Reinhardt, your end board is a lot better.
Yeah.
So even just Rainbow Bridge by itself.
So Rainbow Bridge in the Horus field spell?
Yeah, whenever your end is not that good, you just go into the Horus engine because it access anything in your deck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had him set, and I would shuffle. I will put on the bottom Reinhardt.
Okay, Rhinoheart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then him set it, and you can go Engraver.
Yeah, discard the Engraver. Then add the King Sark. Draw one. Are you fucking kidding me? Another Rhinoheart?
Yeah, you reborn him Seti.
Yeah. Reborn Mseti. Yeah.
You can send the turtle.
Yeah, the turtle. Here's our Harpy. And then Harpy. And then Vampire. Do you summon the Vampire in the EMC or just one of the regular monster zones?
Usually under the EMZ, like in the middle, because it's not gonna stay long on the field. I'm gonna use that body.
So here under the EMC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the zombie vampire is never staying on the field.
Yeah. So now let's mill 4. Oh shit! Shit! That's a free Fenrir for us.
Mhm.
Lacrima in the grave is. I mean, it's not that good, but we can just shuffle it back for Engraver and then go for it later in the combo.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, and now I guess.
Yeah, basically, this board also does the thing we did previously, but also is gonna give you a draw from Necroquip because we have King Saga on field. Like, we have no reason, after we do the line we did earlier, so we make both Desiree and Caesar, we are going to discard a card to get a free draw from Necroquip, basically,
Yeah,
send from the Kingsar.
but how do we sequence that here?
Okay, so we add your cash, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we go in. Now Finsmith because it's always the line that's safe from Nib and forces Nib. So you shuffle back the Lacrima.
So Lacrima. Then we have Engraver.
Now you can also consider to summon your cash.
Okay. Yeah.
We probably should have done earlier, my bad. So you summon your cash.
Yeah, we summon
You mill 3.
Mill 3. Did I shuffle the deck for Engraver? Okay.
Okay, you go. Like you have enough body to do that board because we probably have to go into Mundo in order to do this line. So
Yeah.
Avnis, City, yeah. You go Madragon in the EMZ. You go Madragon and like zombie vampire, I guess. Into Moon, into Rekia, to Lacrima, Lacrima.
Yeah.
Lacrima's an engraver. Go Lacrima and Tear Cash into sequence.
Then this, and probably Lurie. for Desiree.
Desiree?
Yeah,
Monday?
Agnamde.
Whip?
Necroquip.
Here use the effect, yeah, King's Arc to draw one.
Really? Let's see what else we could draw. Just ignore the draw one. So.
King's Arc?
Yeah, and then. Yeah, opponent could nip us here. Yeah, did we actually normal summon?
Like,
I can't remember.
No, we
Yeah, we still have
didn't normal.
the normal summon right now. So,
We can run. And
yeah, okay, we already checked for nip. In case the opponent nips us on the Necro Princess, then we gon' get to trade the Rhino Heart for Imsity, but the Necro Princess draw wouldn't have gotten us to anything anywhere, so it doesn't really matter. So let's just assume we get nipped here. So
okay, check the grave. Okay, so you're gonna have Desiree coming back. What I will do here, instead of going into Rhino,
yeah,
we'll go normal. Rhino, yeah. Send anything like to Mega Fusion.
okay. So
And don't make Kaleido. Send Shiren, yeah.
yeah,
You go Stapelia. So you shuffle back Mag Dragon. Yeah. And okay. Then use Reinhardt, and the token.
yeah.
For so the next turn, you have Desiree, you have Stapelia, and you have Sprint to make Kaleido. Underneath. And you're gonna have the sand from Desiree as well, because you're gonna make Masquerade Desiree, and
so 1, 2, and then yeah, IP into Sprint is going to be the third interruption with the Kaleido Heart, and then Desiree Sand is going to be the fourth. Yeah. And we still have the tier cache that we could summon. So let's see if we can hit anything.
For the next turn, you mean, right?
Yeah, during the opponent's turn, obviously. Because we already used the tier cache in what turn?
Playing a 60.
Yeah, here we don't hit that
Never.
often.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the most valuable thing is that it's just an extra body. She's rarely gonna bring you much value from the mills alone.
Yeah, but let's be honest, the hand was completely terrible and we still got to 4 interruptions. I guess it's fine, so unless the opponent has a super crazy hand, we might be able to stay in the game for 1 turn.
No, this board is pretty good, I'd say. Like, Tapelia changing the level is also super relevant in this meta. Against Ryziel, like, it really hurts them, because even if your Stapelia leaves the field or is negated, it still changes the level permanently from the Ryziel, so you cripple their play basically, because X is not gonna search. They need an extra body to go into an XC because they have a level 1 on field. So and then like what else you want? You go Mascarena into Desere, into Sprint, which is Ascent from Desere, um, a shuffle from Kaleido, and like it's you basically clear their field with a minimal board.
Also, it's crazy that every single card in the extra deck comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so I guess I see the purpose behind every single card here. Yeah, Garura, Caesar. Yeah, well, compared it with the Toronto listed, I tested with Winder. Sometimes it made a difference, but sometimes it was even more. But here, everything comes up in almost every opening hand. So, yeah, I think this extra deck is pretty nice.
Yeah, everything came up for me,
Yeah.
and I didn't have cards that were dead going the second and only came up going first. Like you never make Pilgrim when you go second, let's be honest.
Also, I can imagine that SP doesn't come up most of the times going first, but you still have Vampire, and with Vampire you can maybe banish one card from the opponent's graveyard, but other than that, SP is just amazing going second into boards, and I
Mhm.
cannot imagine
And
playing without SP, even if this card
exactly.
is probably, nah, I wouldn't say the weakest card going first, but not a card that you make every single time going first. And as we saw in opening hands, it's probably better to go sprint into IP into sprint into Kaleido Heart over SP. But yeah, even SP it's stable at this point, and I probably cannot imagine playing into boards without the SP.
Well, and depends on the matchup. So, for example, I will go SP against Mitsurugi in specific spots because it's good to get rid of the rituals from the grave. Also, because SP, like if you make Mascarena into SP, when they try to they tributed, for example, one of the rituals, they're gonna have Chain Link 1 the effect to reborn itself, and Chainlink 2 SP is going to banish them. So it's good in those scenarios in this meta.
And after they already used the Kusanagi, they cannot add back in the same turn. Seems pretty strong. Okay, I guess now after we did a decent amount of testing hands and we understood the value of every single card in the extra deck, do you have any final words for the people who want to pick up this deck and want to try the luck at the German or British nationals by themselves?
Yeah. So I would say the main thing is that you have to remain focused. That's what I will recommend because don't give up. Like every end is playable. Don't give up. Just try to play your way into boards. It's a way of playing the game, of not recurring to end traps, but you have to be clever in letting your opponent establish their boards and trying to break it. Like that's where this deck, where the pilots basically determines if you get a good result or a bad result with this deck. Because anyone is good at winning going first. When you go second, you have to be smart. You have to keep in mind what are your win conditions. Within this case, are grass and the Finsmith engine. So don't waste it. Don't waste any of those interactions. Don't shotgun them, but be patient. Be patient. That's my recommendation. And also practice, but not too much, and have someone to give you feedback, basically. don't playtest alone. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, even during this little testing session with opening hands, we saw that the hands with, for example, double rainbow bridge that seem horrible on the surface are suddenly playable if you just know the correct lines. And especially with the feedback, you gave me lots of lines that were better than lines that I could have imagined. Just so yeah, so much that you can do with this deck. So much space for creativity and so many minor
Definitely.
things that you can improve on, assuming someone gives you feedback. All right, so thank you pretty much for the very detailed interview and for helping me to understand this deck in the solo mode testing hands. I guess that's it for this video. It's already a really long video, and yeah, I just wish you lots of luck during the European World Championship qualifier. Now that you are definitely qualified with the Italian national top 16, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you.
Okay, so see you next video. Have a nice day. And also subscribe to my channel for more Tearlaments content. Bye!